Hi, my name is Yona. I'm the after school leader at Field Teen Center, and today I'm going to be talking about The Mirror Season by Anna-Marie McLemore, a fabulous story about a secret that threatens to destroy the lives of two teens and the ways they try to heal from it. I listened to it as an audiobook on the Libby app. This story needs a big trigger warning because it is one of the most devastating things I've ever read. It deals primarily with the sexual assault of each of the two main characters, so it's pretty heavy. That said, it is a good story, and I think it's worth reading as long as you feel emotionally and mentally prepared for that kind of content. Our main character is Graciela Cristales, or Ciela, and she was sexually assaulted at a party, and she's the only one who knows that Locke was also at that party and that he was also sexually assaulted. He doesn't remember that night, and she doesn't want him to. She doesn't really want to talk about what happened at all, in part because she thinks it'll make it worse, it'll feel terrible, and also because she doesn't think anyone will believe her. So she's just kind of holding it in. And in the aftermath of this terrible thing that happens, two magical things also happen to her. The first is that she starts to notice objects in the world around her turning to mirrored glass and splintering and shattering. So a piece of that mirrored glass goes into her and she can feel it lodged in her heart. And she starts trying to gather up these pieces of mirrored glass to stop them from splintering and infecting anybody else. And she literally shoves them into the bottom of her closet. The other thing that happens is that she loses a piece of small magic that had been passed down in her family for generations. Her great-grandmother could look at any random person who came into the family's pasteleria and know instantly what that person needed to eat, whether it would be a pastry to give them courage or a cookie to remind them of their childhood. Whatever it was that they needed, even if they didn't know it, she would know and she could tell them what to get. Until recently, Ciela also had that power. But she begins to notice that as she starts to try to help Locke and connect with him, she gets a little bit of her power back. So it's not as consistent as it used to be, and it kind of comes and goes, but at least it's kind of coming back. That said, it is a really rude shock for her when she shows up at school in the fall when the semester starts back up and Locke is sitting in her class. She hadn't realized that he was going to her school at all. Let alone that they would be sitting right next to each other. And that's pretty hard until they both start to realize that the two of them can kind of heal together in ways they couldn't by themselves. And of course, the other thing that starts to happen through this story is that we unravel what really happened that night. At first, we know some of what happened. And throughout the story, we learn a little bit more. And each new layer you learn about what happened that night is like, oh God, like it really can get worse. And each time we get a reveal, it's like, okay, now I know everything and we will just watch how these characters react. And that is not the case. We just keep learning more and more. And there's just so many layers of messed up stuff in it. I do think that the reveal of what happened that night is pretty compelling. And I think each time we revisit it, it does add like a new, like, I felt something. I was like, oh man, I have been injured every time we came back to this story. So I thought that was really effective. If you want a story that's gonna really just wring you out, here you go. This is the one. I also really liked getting to know Locke. He's a pretty interesting character. He's not afraid to be vulnerable in a lot of ways that boys often aren't allowed to be. And I think it's pretty important that we're also looking at how the events of that night affected him. He's somebody who can't remember what happened because something was put in his drink. He's a boy, and traditionally, we don't talk as much about boys being sexually assaulted, but it does happen. So I thought this story was really important for those reasons. And I also really loved just getting to hear about Ciela's family's bakery. I think it adds a little bit of relief in this otherwise very heavy story to hear about golondrinas and, goodness, what else? Conchas and just all the other traditional Mexican sweets. And I also thought it was interesting. It was fun. And it reminded me a little bit of Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet. Penn, the main character in that story, is also really into baking Mexican sweets specifically. So if you liked this story, you might check that one out. And if you really enjoyed that story, you might like some of the bakery stuff in this story. So if you would like even more book recommendations, or you just want to let us know what you thought about this story or any other, feel free to get in touch with us. You can message us through Instagram or you can email us. And the links for both of those are in the description box. So thank you for watching.